2014, after watching his mother with 15 years of Parkinson's disease, Eugenia's son wanted to help his mother. He wanted to find out what else could he be doing to assist his mother with living with this disease. So what he did was he looked out there in the medical field and Googled a whole lot of stuff and came up with relatively nothing. So he looked around a little bit further into the innovation sector, the startup community. What he found was this, the lift spoon. Now, this is something that allows people with tremors to feed themselves with dignity. It's a great device. It's used design thinking to build it. But the developers of this couldn't commercialise it because it's not a medical device. There's not a road to commercialisation. And so he invested in this innovation. And 3 years later, it's now available for Parkinson's patients all around the world. And it's done a great lot of good. Now, this son is Sergey Brin. We know him as the co-founder of Google. So it shouldn't take a billionaire to bring through good innovations in health. And this is a major shortfall in where we're faced with medical innovation today. So the thing about it is not that he was a billionaire, but that he was engaged and that he was an empowered carer. And this is a very, very important concept for us in health. The concept of empowerment is very important. How can we be empowered patients, carers, and also healthcare workers without being billionaires? So today I want to talk to you about an initiative that I'm involved with, which is called Health Horizon. This takes this concept of empowerment and tries to bring forward all of the visibility of what's going on in health around the world to allow us to make better decisions in our own health journeys and to perhaps bring forward these innovations for the good of society. Health has many actors. Health is often called a system, but it's more than a system. Health is actually a society. These actors, participants, there's systems, networks, a whole lot of groups. Now, what if all of those became empowered? I believe, and many believe, that this is how we get an empowered health society together. And this is already a movement. It's something I'm involved in, and it's also something that I think we all want to be involved in. Now, our health system, we think, is probably pretty good compared to other OECD nations. Australia seemingly has a good health system. We have good levels of care. But why are over 17,000 people dying of medical misadventure, mistakes in our system every year in Australia? Compare that to our road toll, it's unacceptable. So I'm a data scientist and I've worked in the health system for quite a while, building systems to help clinicians, doctors give better levels of care, particularly in chronic disease. So I've seen what it takes and also what's not happening in our health system. The pace of innovation is very, very slow. So I'm also involved with something called the National Health Sciences Centre, and what we do is we find innovations in hospital groups from around Australia. We try and get that out. Get them out from the settings in which they're developed by great clinicians, nurses, and even patients. Try and get them into other settings, trying to translate this technology. The challenge, though, that we find is exactly what the lift spoon found. There's no established pathways for anything outside of the big established pharma and devices pathways. Yet there's an explosion of innovation. So I asked myself, with 500 innovations in our group alone, I asked the question, well, how many innovations are there globally? So I set my mind to looking externally rather than developing internal systems and thought, well, let me put my data skills to looking outside and in so doing, try and find out how many innovations we've got. So I grabbed one of my co-founder, who just finished his PhD at ANU, and said, let's go and do this. Let's mine the world's health innovations out of everywhere where they exist. So that's in hospital environments, it's in university environments, it's NGOs, it's universities, hospitals typically have got great innovations, but also the startup community, everywhere, right across medtech and biotech, right across public health. So we embarked on this, and what we did was we first off, in the first month, we got all this data back and we assembled it together. What we found was 100,000 innovations right across the spectrum. And this absolutely blew us away because we had no idea of how much innovation there was, but this was not being surfaced at all. So this formed the basis of our venture called Health Horizon. So what we also realised in doing this exercise was it wasn't about mining the data, it wasn't about getting the data, it was how do we make this data meaningful? So we realised our challenge was actually about sorting this, about curating this information so that it made it meaningful for our first group of users who were innovators. So we wanted to give the innovators an insight into what everyone else was doing so we could collaborate. This is an important concept because bringing it back to that empowerment, we wanted to empower those groups. So we got some investment from 2 not-for-profits and also a government grant, and we built this system out over the last 3 years. And it's been tremendous to see where that has now gone. We've just closed a round last month of 20 wealthy individuals around the world who also believe this is a great initiative. What I really want to do is to show you what we've learnt from this journey, because the innovation that we have found is absolutely pertinent to everyone, whether you're a patient, whether you're a doctor, whether you're one of those participants. There's a whole lot of sectors of innovation. You'll see here, one of my favourites is in robotics. We seem to think that robotics is all about, sci-fi, it's way out. But indeed, there are a whole lot of robotic processes, and particularly around surgery, that are actually coming through trials right now. And I was at a medical devices technology showcase in Sydney this week. And Sydney University and other hospitals are actually teaming up and developing robotic surgery trial sites. It's all happening. It's happening very quickly, and it's very, very exciting. What we see here is something that Health Horizon does, and that is bring together the concept, a very important concept, of how do we make all these innovations visible. And we do this by identifying what is the innovation, what does it do, and what stage is it at. When you do that, you level the innovation playing field so that everyone can participate in that knowledge. And what we do is we follow that innovation through its timeline so that people can make assessments as to how important that innovation is. We're also become pretty good at looking at concepts of evidence. Not all innovations are high-tech. They range right from low-tech, from educational resources, through public health campaigns, and right up to the very, very high-tech innovations. What we see here is a wellness campaign. It's something that's got some good evidence, and it's available now. So this is for birthing, and we can see that it's got quite a timeline of activities that it's gone through the process, including being through an accelerator program and being adopted by HCF as a program that they're supporting. The other thing about the low-tech interventions is places like the Gates Foundation fund something called Results for Development. And this is a r4d.org, which takes interventions and classifies them, builds a catalogue, and we take that catalogue and then help promote that around the world. And these are initiatives and campaigns, they're interventions that can be used in these developing nations that actually have high impact. There are many of these catalogues around the world, and we are teaming with these organisations to make their catalogues more available. So rare diseases is another big area that we're focused on. Health Horizon has very much moved into looking at the public good and how we get this empowered health society together. And rare diseases are considered a failure of pharma. Pharma was the great solution for the 20th century. In the 21st century, the innovations that we make in healthcare and in wellness are not necessarily those kinds of interventions. And so we identify many of the rare diseases. There are some great initiatives like Patients Like Me and others that are actually doing the pull-through of innovation rather than the push. And in this way, communities are bringing all these innovations together, and we're helping making them visible so they can be crowdsourced. Or there's a great example, we had something from Royal North Shore that showed one of the professors there found that 2 drugs for women with triple-negative breast cancer were being effective, but neither of those 2 drug companies were interested in doing a trial because they'd already been through their marketing phase. They had no money left. So one person in New South Wales paid for that trial, and now that is a whole new field of solution for people with women with triple-negative breast cancer. There's a whole movement around that now. That's a great example of how just making people aware of what's available, what potential there is that you can pull it through. These are two great areas around disability and also people living with disease. We're aging and we're living with age-related diseases. We need to have better quality of life through this disease, through our journey. And assistive devices, like the Parkinson's spoon, are really, really important. And there are thousands of these being developed with patients in mind, using design thinking. They don't require evidence. They require efficacy through use. And this is where new models of evidence are really required, and indeed rethinking about what evidence actually is required around many of these solutions. The other thing is 3D and VR. And VR allows clinicians to do simulations. It also allows people with things like phobias to experience outside of a dangerous environment their phobia and actually move through it. There's a lot of scenarios now where VR is making breakthroughs, and we take a lot of time in curating these kinds of innovations. So the two big innovation sets that I really want to talk about, and the most exciting, are the ones that are really pushing the threshold: genomics and personalised medicine, and also around the 3D implants. Now, these are the two that are very highly regulated, and indeed the TGA and the FDA and the regulators, have very, very firm processes by which they analyse evidence and do studies and allow things onto market. Now, I chaired my first health conference last year. It was called The Future of Health. And in that, every single clinician who was pushing the forefront of innovation was really complaining about how these regulators were so slow in accepting new study types and new ways to evaluate evidence. And particularly, very pertinent, last week, we had the first drug that the FDA has approved, which is a cancer drug that uses a genomic matching to a particular patient. So it only works where these patients have particular genotype. And what it does is it targets the cancer tumour, not the location of where the tumour is. And it's a great advancement, and actually the FDA should be commended for actually having opened up and changed their study format and allowing new forms of evidence. 3D implants, though, we've got a long way to go. We are pushing the forefront of 3D implants in Australia. We have some great orthopaedic surgeons working with places like Cairo to do vertebrae, to do rib cages, to do various forms of bone implants. The thing about if you just leave it to the regulator, they go, well, we want you to register that particular design. It's like, well, no, we did that design based on the patient's requirement, and then we've got a process. So we need those regulators to zoom out a little bit and say, we'll regulate this particular process, a quality process, a design process, and allow that to be done with the right materials. I mean, that's what our regulators need to do, and we need to put pressure on them to allow this. I mean, certainly the clinical groups are starting to do that, but they are very, very slow. This is well accepted stuff, and it's working very, very well. I'm very excited by what these have to offer. The nanotechnology really has an ability in health to make major inroads into delivering drugs into the brain through the blood-brain barrier and other things. The thing is, these are a little more way off. Using nano in bodies, there's a whole lot of testing we have to do. But it doesn't mean we can't find and follow these and actually encourage their development. And this is really why, and this is the game changer we think that Health Horizons is doing, is allowing people and to show the willingness of people to be interested in it, to help with it. If they wanted to go to a study or they wanted to do something, then anyone finding or following it could participate in that if they opted into it. And this is one of the things that we're doing with Health Horizon. So really what we've done with our platform, with Health Horizon, is not just bring them all together. We've created a language and a way to make it accessible. And this is particularly important for us. It's around the structure of the information. I've built a whole lot of knowledge sets in my life, and this is the most exciting I've been involved with because health is complex. And yet we are trying to democratise it. We're trying to bring it down so that we can all access it. And whether that's the leading edge clinicians or someone just getting into their own health journey, we need to talk about the same things. We need to share the same information. So the other big thing that's happening in the world right now is that there are networks of health innovation emerging. And there's one in Melbourne, for example. So in the last 3 weeks, we've been down in Melbourne with all the participants in the Melbourne Health Innovation Network. They are universities, they're hospital groups, they're accelerators, they're funders, government. And what we've done is we've helped them map out all the innovations that exist within their networks. So they can then share them, they can use them in their own networks, they can talk about, they can encourage, they can fund. And so these are just some that we've found in Melbourne. We've done that with other cities like Toronto, which is a great health innovation city. In fact, they have something called Health Innovation Week. And that's where they bring together, I think, over 30 activities in that 1 week. It gives you an idea of how much effort and how much of this society, this empowered health society, is coming together. So this is what we drew up and built out of our own database, and then discussing it with the members of the community, what the Innovation Network looks like. It shows collaboration, it shows activity and what partnerships. It's a live map, and we're doing that with other cities of the world because we've realised that the innovation in health is happening in the cities of the world. That's where the core innovation happens. It's about people and institutions. They happen within cities. Sure, there's collaboration over borders and the like, but that's where the activity is really happening, and it's very, very exciting to see that happen and be involved in this process. So if I was Sir J. Brin again, and it was 3 years later, I'd be going to Health Horizon, and what I'd be doing is typing up Parkinson's, the spoon would appear, and then maybe he could still invest. We still need people to invest in these ideas, but it wouldn't be so hard for him to find a really good innovation. And I think as we move forward on our own health journeys and become more engaged, we need to be looking towards what's coming, to the future of healthcare. And we're hoping that the Health Horizon will allow us to do that, bring it forward so that we can all be part of an empowered health society. Thank you.